Oh, yes. Kicking another one into the can today. Sweet. All right. You guys have heard me talk a lot about the fact that I'm a single father. I have one precious little girl. She is absolutely the light of my life. She is one of the most amazing kids, one of the most resilient and incredible children I've ever seen. She's tough and she's brave and she's smart and she's beautiful, and I love her to death. She's also now a preteen, and she may eviscerate my soul in the next 3 to 4 years if current trends continue. Raising children, there's a lot of people now that are choosing not to have children because they would rather spend their life traveling and basically being hedonists. Like we're just in a society of people who believe that their own pleasure and their own self-satisfaction is the absolute priority in all things and everything that they do. If it doesn't bring them either wealth, Jesus, I just said it. If it doesn't bring them wealth, material gain of another sort, garner affection, validate their appearance, whatever the case may be. A lot of people in the millennial generation and younger generally they won't do it. You can see it in work attitudes. You can see it in the Instagram life. Social media didn't help. But a lot of people now are choosing not to have kids. When I became a father, I wasn't ready for it. Was not planned. Despite all the warnings and knowledge that I had, knowing exactly, if only abstractly, that's a not getting laid much joke, how babies are made, I still ended up making a baby when I wasn't planning on it. I was scared. I remember being scared that I knew I wasn't ready, that I had all these things to do, sell a condo, buy a house, and that a certain portion of my life was over. That portion that weekends were totally free. Aside from potential work commitments, I had no other commitments of any import on Saturday or Sunday or Friday night. That I could travel when I wanted to. All I had to do was book it. That if I wanted to make certain choices of what I wanted to buy, I didn't have to worry about affecting somebody else's well-being. Having a kid changed all that. I'm going to speak from the father's experience, Holding my daughter in my hands for the first time, my arms, was one of the most, it's so cliched, but it's true. I can't really say anything but what's been already said. Is really no other way. Like it's a God shot. Nothing prepares you for the immediate and absolutely colossal perspective shift that happens when you go from bringing a soon-to-be mother to a hospital in labor and thinking you know what fatherhood means, to the moment when you hold a newborn. That shift it's indescribable. And you realize that there's more to the world than just you. And in my case, I was scared and I was unprepared. I still had that God shot moment. But part of me fought giving up my old life for like a year, and it was catastrophic. Like, it was bad. Anyways, it led me to a point where I stopped drinking and I really started to put into practice those feelings that I felt when I first held my daughter. And raising her, especially after the separation, has been a challenge. Speaking again from the perspective of a single father, I remember the unbelievable amount of regret and, dare I say, loss I felt when I went from seeing my daughter every day to suddenly seeing her a few hours at a time, twice a week, during the end of her infancy and the beginning of her being a toddler. I still go back to pictures of her from that time and look at the picture and feel this overwhelming love, but also a bit of sadness, because I knew what was going on at that time in my life, and it was difficult because I wasn't there for a lot of moments. I was there every week, but, separation being separation, and men that listen to this understand that early childhood children need their mothers generally more than they need their fathers, unless the mother is completely unfit. A lot of men have talked about feeling dissociated early in their child's life because the mother is doing what biologically mothers will do. They nest, they protect, they nurture. That doesn't leave a lot of mental and physical bandwidth for attention to a spouse. And conversely, it doesn't leave a lot of room for the spouse, typically a man, but there's different family arrangements now, obviously. Typically doesn't leave a lot of room for a father to get close to a child early on. And I certainly felt that too the first year. I felt like I was bumbling around and utterly in the way, and generally not a person that people want. Well, there were other factors too that people didn't want to be around me, but I just didn't feel like somebody that should be kicking around that much. I learned to accept my role as a single father as my daughter became 3 and then 4. As she learned to communicate, we started to find a little rhythm with each other that was nice. We certainly took her on some trips. On that front, I've been extremely lucky in that Grandma and Grandpa, my parents, love to travel, and have always offered, at least at one point in a year, every couple of years, to take my daughter and I on a trip. I mean, first of all, financially it helps a lot. And second of all, it gives us all time as a family, and it gives my daughter a sense of a complete family, even though I'm alone. And I've joked about all the dating stuff long enough, but I've been alone for largely since I separated. I haven't really formed a meaningful live-in relationship with anybody. So being a dad, it wasn't easy. I went through a lot of stuff that most parents don't go through. My daughter's always been healthy. She's had her issues. I'm sure all kids do. We had some academic issues. We had some bullying issues. We certainly had some school, not school academic, but problems with school administrations. We're in a great school now. Things are going much better. It took so long to figure out the right recipe for my daughter's success. But, we had these really good years, I would say, where my daughter was just being a kid. She would see me twice a week. We had these alternating. I would see her once during the week for an evening, and then I would have this alternating schedule on weekends to at least see her every weekend. And generally it went from after school on Friday to Saturday morning, or Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon. But I fell into a rhythm with that, and I kind of structured my life around it a little bit. Made it easier for me to function, and it always gave me time with my daughter. So fast forward a little bit, and then things happen with her mom. Not between me and her mom, but her mom in her life has some things that happen that affect my daughter, and things go a little sideways. Plus, I'm getting to the meat of this finally, my daughter, hits puberty. And, oh boy, when kids... It's the classic, right? Boys break things, girls break hearts. And I couldn't say that it's been much different. It's just, I don't know. I remember as a kid, if my dad got really upset, I was never hit. But I still had the fear of God of my father. I lived through the classic threat, the threat that all sons of certain generations know. Wait till your father hears about this. And it's that could mean different things, but I just remember it meaning to me that, first of all, it would be one of the most intimidating talking tos you ever received. Second of all, it would lead to this utterly devastating comment of, I'm so disappointed in you because you made a mistake, or you did a wrong thing, or, But my daughter, holy crap, when I get upset, she doesn't care. I don't know if that's with most preteen, teenage girls. You just say, first of all, you tell, let's say at the beginning of the day, wake up. They kind of wake up slow. Okay, you got to get dressed. You tell them, we got to be out of the door in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And for the first 80% of that time, there is zero movement. And as much as you push, that all they're going to do is get angrier and angrier. And in the case of my daughter, the more you push to get something done, the more she sticks her feet in the mud and refuses to budge. And then when you're really panicked for time, because for me, I have a 40-minute drive to her school, when you got to get going, it's your fault that she's running late. I think teenage girls are just born to gaslight. It's just part of their biological makeup is to turn it around and make it so unpleasant for a parent that the parent just rolls over and accepts. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, but that's just leaving the house. And then if something happens and you get upset and you say, go to your room, they just say no. And you say, but I've said so. And they just go, I don't care. Like, where's this coming? Like, I think we've empowered kids too much. This is the classic, and this is another idea for a future episode. This is the classic landlord-tenant argument. You know, the landlord owns the house. Landlord should make the rules to a certain degree. But the tenant can turn around and say, I don't care, and no one can do anything, you know, because the tenant has all the power. It just makes no sense. Like, kids now, with all the news coverage and this and that and stories about truly awful people that have tried to raise children and the introduction of wokeness, now you can't discipline a child. You can't give them consequences of any sort. Kids are being raised with zero accountability. I don't know. I'm trying to raise my daughter with accountability and with consequences. I'm lucky in the fact that after all these years of tension, my ex and I have finally found a space in which we know how to co-parent, and we're not tense with each other anymore, which is great. That helps a lot, because certainly if I'm trying to give a consequence or she's trying to give a consequence, we have each other to back each other up. But little girls, the things with little boys, as a dad, I'd be maybe more comfortable disciplining a boy. With a girl, I don't know, maybe I would have to assume, and I've always thought this, that one of the big advantages of having a woman in my life would be to kind of bounce ideas off on what to do with my daughter when she gets a certain way. I know for myself, I would never ask another person to be the effective parent of my daughter. She has two parents, you know. But little girls will make a parent feel like they're going insane, and it just would be nice to know, to have somebody validate that I'm not, for that reason, going insane. I'm going insane for other reasons, but not for that reason. And I've just started. My daughter's technically still a preteen. And we've shifted from loving daddy. She still loves daddy, but the phone is very important. Friend groups are more important. I am an embarrassment of all sorts. She's starting to ask to get dropped off at school away from the school. I have to get my arm around her to give her a kiss on the head before she runs out of the car at school. And I'm pretty much saying I love you as she closes the door. Although she does usually, not looking at me, facing the other way and yelling into the traffic, say, I love you too, Dad. I take that as a win. And now, you know, what's this going to be in a year, 2 years, 4 years? I figure I have 6 years of this. It's already started in my mind on a scale of 1 to 10 at like a 6. And I don't know what happens when you hit 8, 10, or 12. In my case, I have a feeling my daughter's going to exceed the scale. Maybe all fathers are worried about this with their teenage daughters, but and for those dads that out there that not only have to deal with the teenage daughter, but teenage daughters plural, and the dynamics of war between two sisters, ooh, I won't even pretend to know what that's like. I know the brother-sister, I have a sister, so I know the brother-sister relationship, and I know my daughter has a half-sister, and she seems to get along fairly well with her, but I don't know what it's like at my ex's place for a week when she has her. But kids, whoa. It's a struggle. I wonder what my life... You know what? I don't think my life would have been as good without... It can't in any way have been as good as my life. Without my daughter would have been so much more empty than with my daughter. I may live alone, but I have her. I may feel like I've not succeeded in life. I feel like I would have succeeded less without her, because I would have had nothing to fight for, except for myself. And I'm just not that narcissistic. I can't push myself that hard just for me. I need someone else. I need someone else to help. And that gives me the motivation sometimes to get up and get into those meetings that I just want to punch a computer screen or like leave the office early for a day. Kids is not easy. So, shout outs to all the parents out there. In my mind, I think there are people in my friend group that would love to have had kids and are selfless by nature. I can talk about a few of my friends that are pretty darn selfless just in and of themselves. But I know all my friends that do have kids, they got that experience, right? They know. I don't know. I think parents make better community members. I think parents fight for the long term rather than the now. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine from Toronto who he's facing it's nothing difficult. He's facing some real estate challenges in Toronto, in that Toronto's kind of, it seems like the market's kind of wobbling a little bit on the real estate side. And he's sitting there going, my God, like, what do I do? And he's trying to save himself from, some sort of collapse. But the only thing he can think to do, and I got to credit this friend every time he calls me and asks for some advice on this or that, it always, for him, has come back to his daughter. And he's got a young daughter, but he's always like, okay, I got to set this up for her. I got to give this to her, and I got to give that to her. He's not cashing out to buy a BMW. He's not cashing out to take that luxury cruise. He's not cashing out or demanding things of people so that he can amass his own wealth. He lives a simple life. He works. He supports his family. And anything extra he has, he's putting in her name. That's a man. That's textbook definition of a man. Somebody that would, do that kind. I don't even think I'm that selfless. I got way too much dumb Lego in this house to say that I made every decision for my daughter. But her education is secure, you know? So, yeah, parents, what a trip. And trust me, single parents, what a trip with legal fees.